welcome. It's so good to see so many people out in the middle of the day. So thank you so much for spending your lunchtime with us. My name is Ariana Margetts, and with my colleagues Ben Howe and Dren, we manage Cohort Innovation Space and the events and programs that we run within this space. So we have about 300 members here, so we're growing all the time. But today we have a really special event on, so we're going to jump straight into it, and I'll let Jason Atkins do the moderating and our special guest Wayne Gerard, the Queensland Chief Entrepreneur. So please give them both a round of applause.
Thanks, Ariana. Welcome, Wayne.
Thanks, mate.
So today we're going to talk about leadership. Obviously, we've got one of the top leaders in the state here. Having looked back over his LinkedIn today, we just met today. I've been really looking forward to meeting you, Wayne, so thanks for coming down. Unbelievable list of achievements that he has under his belt, so excited to hear what you think about all things tech leadership today, mate. So myself, I'm one of the co-founders of Cake. I started in tech in 2017. So we're all, I guess, riding on the shoulders of those that came before us. I think the Gold Coast tech scene was super new back then. It still is, but we've come a really long way. I think so much more action going on. Excited to hear how we can continue to grow it. So Wayne founded a company called Redeye. It's a centralized searchable asset data and drawings. Yeah, that's your guys' tagline.
No, it's not.
accurate engineering. That's what I got it from your website. It's the best I could do today. I'm not going to let you introduce yourself. We're going to go straight into leadership stuff in a sec, so you're going to have to bear with me. It's all about getting accurate engineering and asset data. And their clients manage $350 billion worth of assets, which is, no small...
450.
Oh, geez, this is startup land. Your website's out of date every quarter if you're doing well. So good job, Wayne. That's what we want to hear. So many leadership roles. So board member of Startup Oz at one point, Queensland Premier's Business Advisory Group. There's so many. I won't. I'm currently the Chief Entrepreneur. So I think... Also, really grateful to have you take on the role. It's sort of an honorary and voluntary role, so really wonderful, that you've taken that effort. One quick thing though on leadership, I noticed early on in your career you were in the Signal Corps in the Army. So maybe we can start there, a little bit left field. Some leadership attributes that you learnt in the Signal Corps that perhaps help you still today.
Yeah, sure. G'day everyone, it's great to be here. Thanks for taking the time to turn out today. Let's just get a sense of who's in the room before we start. So please, who are the entrepreneurs in the room? Put your hands up. High, put your hands up high. Right, look around the room everyone. Awesome. Give our entrepreneurs a clap, quick. Right.
Well, what about if you work at a startup though, and you're not a founder? Would you still consider yourself an entrepreneur? I think that's a really good question.
Yeah. So
work at a startup but didn't have your hand up? Who else is there?
Put your hands up. That's good.
There must be more.
Who are all the people that help entrepreneurs to build amazing businesses? Put your hands up. Right. Look around the room.
Nice.
Right. Awesome. Who are the investors? Right. Couple. Right. Everyone go and see them.
Form a queue. No.
Excellent. Who would like to invest into innovative Queensland companies but doesn't really know how or where to start? Put your hands up. Anyone? Got a couple? Right, cool. Yeah, there's always a couple, right? And it's our job to make the ecosystem here in Queensland more inclusive, more 100%. Transparent, and more accessible to everyone, right? Whether you're a student wanting to do your first venture or curious about entrepreneurship, whether you're a mum or you come from an Indigenous background or you come from an immigrant background, or you're transitioning from one industry and you want to get into this innovation ecosystem, our job as an ecosystem is to be inclusive. And so I think that's a really important part of what Cohort do, and a big shout out to the team at Cohort. Where's Dren sitting? Yeah, up the back. I'm looking around. I can see Ben. I can see Ariana. I'm going, where the hell's Dren gone? So shout out to the guys at Cohort for today. And I am getting to your answer, but I just wanted to do
I'm going to give you a minute. Well, we're going to get back to it.
Cool. I also want to do two other things. I just want to acknowledge my team from the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur. So we've got Sarah over there, Chief of Staff, Heather right there, right, who looks after all the different things we're working on, right, all the different projects. Sandy, who's running around, who hasn't met Sandy yet, right? If you haven't met Sandy, you need to meet Sandy because she's going to interview you, right? You don't get a choice, right? She's going to interview you. Why is it important? We're telling 222 stories this year about all of the amazing things that are happening in our innovation ecosystem. 2-minute video about what you do in the innovation ecosystem, what's your role, why are you passionate about innovation, and why is Queensland a great place to be involved in the innovation ecosystem. And it's about amplifying the amazing things we do. So please catch Sandy sometime today. Sandy's already done a couple. Who's already done one today? Look at this. Awesome.
I've done mine. It's very painless.
Yeah, it's good.
If we don't tell our story, other people are going to tell it for us, right? So
exactly,
get involved.
Right. Then I wanted to shout out to the team at the Department of Innovation. Lee, put your hand up. Right, Lee she leads innovation for the Queensland Government. So If you want to know about innovation in Queensland Government, Lee is your lady, right? And so huge congrats to Lee. She just got formally appointed as the Deputy Director General for Innovation. Huge achievement and a really important role. Give her a clap.
Welcome, Lee.
Right. Hey, Ange, you should tell everyone what you do quickly. Gold. So there you go. That is the way to get into Queensland Government. If you're on the Gold Coast, talk to Ange. She has a direct hotline to her boss sitting right next to her, right? So great way to connect. Rowena, put your hand up. Rowena's over there. Rowena is the chair of the Queensland Government's Innovation Advisory Council. She basically pulled together with me a group of people that sit right across the innovation ecosystem to look at how do we accelerate innovation in Queensland? How do we accelerate our economy and society through innovation? So Rowena is doing an amazing job of that. Give her a clap because that's a volunteer role as well. And Jace, lastly but not least, I should acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are gathered. I like to say, as Chief Entrepreneur, I follow in their footsteps, right? They are the original innovators. They are the original researchers. They are the original entrepreneurs. They are the curious problem solvers through necessity. And it's in their footsteps that we, as innovators, entrepreneurs, researchers, people that are focused on changing the world, right, are really going. And so I just want to acknowledge them. Now, to your question, right?
First of all, great leadership. Great way to start a session on leadership. Well done, well done.
We'll have to mention this drink in a minute too, right? I guess I started my journey for entrepreneurship when I was 12. I grew up in a family on the Central Coast of New South Wales that was just a general middle of the road family. We never had much. We had to work for everything we had. I started doing paper runs when I was 12. I decided to go to the army. I was one of those kids that grew up in the Top Gun era and wanted to be a pilot. Didn't get to be a pilot, so I decided to be an army officer instead, and went to Duntroon. And when I look back on my journey as an entrepreneur, I think my experience at Duntroon was absolutely foundational in helping me as a young person understand what is leadership, understand the responsibilities and accountabilities of a leader, and then be put in practical situations that really took it from intellectual to physical understanding of leadership. You know, I led lots of teams in lots of really adverse and challenging situations. I got put under pressure and stress in environments that most people would never experience. And so, are there any veterans in the room? Great. And so the veterans in the room will understand, and we should acknowledge our veterans, right? Because they do an amazing job for us as an economy. So please give our veterans a clap. It's really important, right? Like,
incredibly, yeah.
The situation you face as a leader, you know, imagine me, a young, dumb, 6 foot tall and bulletproof 20-year-old.
Well, I was going to say my grandfather tried to bribe me to join the army when I was about 17 or 18 for this exact reason. And I chose not to. And then when I was like 35, I was Googling, like, what is leadership? So, getting these attributes built in at a young age is just such a wonderful thing for setting your life up on the right path, I think.
Jace, back then it was a hard thing because, I got taken out the back of the line shed when I was a young signals corps lieutenant and had the shit beaten out of me for doing stupid things, right? But they taught me valuable lessons. And I guess today, if I was to bring forward the leadership lessons that I apply today, two really practical leadership lessons. Right now, I'm as a leader and as a business owner, I really focus on not jumping to conclusions or not jumping to solutions straight away. I really encourage my team to, rather than solutionize every problem or solutionize every conversation with a customer, to stop and look at all the options. Because I think options analysis produces a far better outcome, a better product, a better solution, a more scalable business. And so trying to encourage my team to be options orientated as opposed to solution orientated builds a really important step into the business process. So that's one. And the second one is that I'm a big believer in, to be an effective, whether you're an effective executive inside a leadership a team or a business, or whether you're a CEO, you need to be both in the business and on the business at the same time. In the business and on the business at the same time. And that's really hard to do unless you practice it. So in any meeting, thinking about how do you maximize the value of the meeting for the people you're meeting with, and also thinking about how do I make this meeting more repeatable, more scalable, better for my business? How do I use it as a coaching opportunity if I've got team in there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So two things.
Amazing. I'm sure that's been so valuable for you along the way. When I got into a position where I needed to become a leader, because I sort of went through more of a professional career path myself, where you sort of get trained a lot in management and just getting things done to a timeline and things like that. And then some of us will get into leadership later in our careers. And so I sort of then learned it to be, having a vision, having a mission, and then getting people to go there, with you and sort of drawing that sort of path and getting people to go. And I think, to paraphrase what you just said, I think in every situation you're in, you're saying, what's the best outcome, for me and the people here, and then trying to make sure that everybody's seeing what the best outcome is and, that they're taking the right path. So, yeah.
Yeah, I often stop my team and go, hey guys, what's the problem we're trying to solve? Stephen Covey said it really well, start with the end in mind. And so what is the end? What's the outcome you want? And then let's work backwards from there and look at the options, the ways we could get there. I think that's really powerful.
Nice. So what about Queensland Tech? So obviously you've got a leadership role that affects probably most of us in the room in some way, shape or form. Obviously the community really drives the ecosystem, but we do need great leaders and different stakeholders to contribute. What's your thoughts on the right vision for Queensland as a state and some of the right strategies to get there?
I'd like to say that my role is about helping the ecosystem, hopefully not affecting, but ultimately, I guess when I look at my role as chief entrepreneur and I look at the previous chief entrepreneurs, and what's different? What am I doing that's different?
How many have there been? We had Steve Baxter.
We've had three.
And
we had
Leanne Camp.
Mark Salby
Oh,
first.
Mark Salby. Yeah.
Right, then Steve, then Leanne, and now me. And we're curious about who's next, right? So if you think...
How many... This is your first year, Wayne? Yeah.
My first year finishes in June.
Yep.
And
You're going again?
I'm going to stay until December.
At least, right? No.
Till December.
Till December, okay.
Till December, Lee. So we're actually thinking about who should be the next chief entrepreneur, and we are looking for people who want to contribute, who want to give back. And we've got a bit of a position description that clearly articulates it and all that. And anyway, it's...
I'm not going to apply that.
I said no 3 times before I said yes. I think what's my role, right? Really simply, the innovation ecosystem is really an ecosystem that should be, in my mind, focused on what are the problems we're trying to solve in our economy. And so I wanted to build an innovation ecosystem or focus the innovation ecosystem on solving really practical and tangible problems. You could call them opportunities, you could call them challenges, but I wanted to get the ecosystem focused on, okay, how do we help accelerate our economy and society?
So the bigger economies in the Queensland, so agriculture,
all of it,
property,
yeah,
tourism, I suppose education.
Yeah,
these
so
are some of the big industries. Yeah,
absolutely. We broke kind of my mission into 4 parts. So the first part is how do we help our existing industry to be more competitive and more sustainable by partnering with you, entrepreneurs, innovators, researchers, Queensland entrepreneurs, innovators, researchers, to solve some of our most important problems or to unlock some of the most important opportunities, because I believe in customers, not grants.
I was going to say, yeah, because then you have customers here, which is obviously one of the hardest things when you're trying to find product market fit.
Yeah, exactly right. And so I've been doing a lot of work inside Queensland Government to unlock Queensland Government as a customer, and doing a lot of work to unlock Queensland corporates as customers.
I'm sure you're not going to be surprised to hear that it's very difficult for a startup to interact with any sort of enterprise business. I've got a couple of, first-hand experiences that we won an accelerator with the Bank of New Zealand one time. I pitched it from London at 2:00 in the morning and we won it. And I was like, wow, this is amazing for cake. And it was great because it meant we could raise a round, because investors love that kind of thing. So don't forget that. But to then actually go and do an innovation project with a bank is like legit impossible. So so it was a disaster. But, we do need to solve some of these. And look, there's definitely good programs out there. I think Suncorp's doing a really good job, and I think fintech's a good opportunity for Queensland. We've got some good financial services here, and it's probably an area we can double down on. But I suppose just bridging that gap is really, really important. So the meager resources of a startup, can be used in the right way to get the right outcome.
Our first client was BHP, and we had 3 people when we won our first BHP site. Literally myself and 2 software developers. And we had to convince BHP to give us their engineering data, take it off their site completely, right? Trust it to us in the cloud in 2012 when BHP had a global no cloud policy, right? And you learn along the journey how to build a business that is focused and capable of dealing with enterprise clients, if that's your target market. Or you learn how to deal with health providers, if that's your target market, or financial institutions, or consumers, or whoever your target market is. And it's just about building expertise.
And the investors learn as well. I think sometimes it's a very short-term mindset with investors, but if you've got a 12-month sales cycle, you need to fund those businesses appropriately. So I think, it goes on both sides of that discussion as well, just to try and unlock the potential there.
Investment, finding investors that understand investing in enterprise SaaS. So in my mind, there's B2C, so business to consumer SaaS. There's B to small b SaaS. There's B to medium business, and there's B to enterprise. And B to enterprise is an entirely different business model than B to medium business or B to small business or B to C. It requires a different org structure, different skill sets, different sales cycle, different funding model, different funding duration, different support model, different cost base, all of those things. And you're right, Jace, finding investors that understand it is, And I think
we've done so much of that. I mean, one of the best things we did at Cake, just share, was to choose one customer. Yeah. We had all these different customers and we were going nowhere. And then we chose very early stage startup, seed series A, and the whole company took off because we just dropped so much baggage from everything we were doing. And so I think, choosing the right customer is so critical, because as you listed, 10, 12 different things that change depending on which customer you're selling to. So imagine trying to sell to 3 customers with a team of 4 or 6 or 8, like you're literally not going to succeed. There's no chance.
Like I look at a lot of enterprise software companies, and in fact, a lot of early stage tech companies, and in the first 1 to 2 years, how many customers do they have to help them learn about product market fit? I think there's a lot of hype around the concept of product market fit. And when do you really have product market fit? We've been going for 10 years, almost 10 years in October. And so almost an overnight success, not quite, right?
Congratulations, by the way. That's bloody good effort.
And, we've got product market fit for one product, and we don't have product market fit for 2 of our other products, right?
Well, I spoke to, we've got some great advisors. One of them was, one of the first 20 employees at Canva, and he basically said, yeah, we only really had one product for pretty much our whole journey. We tried to do so many other products, but we couldn't get any of them to work. So that gives you some insight into how difficult it is to get, and how once you've got it, really go for it.
I totally agree. It is so hard as your business scales to launch other products inside a business that is solely focused on your first product.
So let's talk a bit about the Gold Coast, if you don't mind. Obviously something that we're all really passionate about. I didn't mention health before, which was obviously a silly oversight of mine. Very health focused down here on the Gold Coast, and we're grateful to have awesome bits of infrastructure like the hospital and the university and this precinct. So any comments or thoughts on sort of that precinct, where you see it going, and the leadership that, I must say I'm absolutely stoked of the leadership of Cohort and the people here. I think they've helped not only the Health and Knowledge Precinct, but the whole Gold Coast ecosystem to mature and gain a lot more respect nationally as well. So huge congrats to the guys here. Any other comments, I guess, on Gold Coast leadership, maybe specifically to do with health?
Keep going. You're doing a cracking job. The more that we do, the more that we tell stories about the amazing innovation that's occurring here, about the number of jobs that are created here, about the problems that we're solving here. That's what's going to build momentum, right? That attracts talent, that attracts investment, that is the example that encourages the next generation of entrepreneurs. And I think it's about momentum, right? And obviously, the more customers you can get locally, the closed loop ecosystem is a really, really powerful ecosystem to incubate and accelerate the startup or
with
startup
the right
formation.
Principles and the right values, and
critical,
sharing
right?
in the successes, all those sorts of things, right?
I love your shirt, Jace. Seriously. We have a belief in the ecosystem about give first, right? We call it give before you get. And that's my single principle for the ecosystem. And if you think about it, give before you get is actually the journey of an entrepreneur.
It definitely feels like that.
Well, it has to feel like that, right? Because what's an entrepreneur?
I have grey beard because of that.
Yeah. But if you think about all you entrepreneurs out there, right? Like me, you started because you went, that's a problem, right? And so you gave your energy, your attention, your experience, and your time to understand the problem.
And you're purpose-driven. So I think when you make that shift to be, you've found a vision and a mission that you really care about, you can connect your own purpose into it, then, you're not battered around by all the daily and weekly things that might bat like a regular person around, right?
Yeah.
And people say to you, oh, you work so hard and you do this and that, why do you do it? And you're like, well, I'm doing kind of what I feel like I was meant to do. I was talking to some founders earlier about that, and I think it's critical, and this is leadership, right?
Yeah.
When you find that and you can bottle it and pitch it and bring people with you, I think this is one of the most important leadership skills of a founder. I don't know, any comments on that?
Look, I totally agree. I think one of the things that makes a founder attractive is their authenticity, right? Their ability to humbly put themselves second to the outcome they're trying to achieve, right? So it's not about money. It's about how can I solve that problem? How can I help that person, that company, that industry, that economy, that society, wherever you focus? How do I make a difference? Because everything else comes after you make a difference. And
a long way after, I think.
Oh, yeah, it does. It does, right? But I'm 10 years in, and slowly but surely over the last, 2-3 years, I've started to get some return from my investment. The first 5 or 6 years, I didn't take a holiday, right? Not one single day off. And it almost killed me, to be honest.
Well, I'd like to talk about that at some point. Maybe we can do it now. I think, at Cake, we talk a lot about our health. We've built looking after our health and our team's health into our culture. Some people would say it's to our detriment because we're all not working 70 hours a week, every week, and that may be true. But we've taken the view that by providing leadership as founders, that our health is important, our mental health is important, then our team will thrive much more over the long term. Any sort of comments on that? Not to hassle you about your hard work, because I'd never want to hassle anyone for hard work. I think it's very vital as well. But health in leadership? Any comments?
Oh, there's stacks, and we're all on that journey, I assume. There's certainly I'm learning, right? I am not an expert in leading a company. I'm a founder that's learning every single day.
That's great leadership right there.
Yeah.
You need to be constantly learning to succeed in anything innovative or in life in general, I think.
Well, you know as well as I do, Jace. Like, if you think about what are some of the initiatives you're doing in your business that are really tangible, give us a couple.
I wish I knew what they were. It's pretty chaotic at Cake. Yeah. Well, yeah, like there's so many. The big thing we're trying to do right now is take the lessons that we learned in Australia, but becoming the market leader in handling equity for startups and doing it in multiple countries around the world. So we're learning how to acquire and activate customers. We're learning how to actually handle equity in multiple countries. We're learning how to build relationships in multiple countries. So there's a hell of a lot going on. I'm also raising capital. So even though I've raised capital multiple times and I coach people on raising capital, every time you raise a new round, it's much more difficult and complex than the time before, and all the actors have changed. So there's an endless amount of learning, which is why we build such a great advisory team. We've always had great advisors. We've got more now than we've ever had, and the reason we have them is because we've designed it so that they've all done something that we need to do, sort of just ahead of where we're at, so we can sort of see around those corners that it's so hard to see.
It's a really smart idea, and I'll come back to that in a moment because we did something similar in our business. I'll give you some really practical things that we're doing in our business around health and well-being. We implemented about 2016. So 2016, I was riding my motorbike to a meeting with one of my investors. I had a panic attack, pulled over on the side of the road, had to go by ambulance to hospital, thought I was having a heart attack. Hadn't had a holiday. I'd had one holiday total. And
how many years is that, like 6 years?
Yeah, right. And it was like really stressful, right? I was roughly 30 kilos heavier than I am right now. And it was, it was a journey. And I'm like, right, something's got to give, something's got to change. And so one of the things I implemented a thing called recharge days. And I said, right, everyone in the business, you get 1 day every 6 months. And all you have to do is give your leader 1 day's notice and go, hey, I need a recharge day. And that day is your day. No one will bother you. You can take it with 1 day's notice, and it's about pulling the pin, raising the red flag and going, I need to let go of the pressure valve, go and do something to get my mind cleared. On top of their leave. And that worked really, really well. It was a really powerful tool for my team to go, it's okay to speak up, right? So it wasn't just the recharge day, it started a conversation.
Opens up the right kind of conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah, really powerful. And then last year we changed it so that now if you've been in the business 3 years or longer, you get one recharge day for every year you've been in, and you get to divide them between the first and the second half of the year. They don't carry over or anything like that. So if you've been 5 years, you get 5 recharge days a year. 6 years, 6, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. My co-founder Kim's massive into what he calls creative, healthy lifestyle, and so we built that into our culture. We've got a CHL channel in our Slack where we run competitions all the time, and people try and build good habits, and we all share photos and updates on our sort of healthy habits, and it's become a really fun part of our culture. And now that we've got a remote team as well, it's just such a great way to engage with the team. So yeah,
great idea. And you could easily implement something like that in your business. And I think they're really practical things. The bigger your business gets, the more complex it gets, as you know, right? And the more silos get created unintentionally. And so you have to break those things down, and breaking them down by making it human and making it connected is really, really important part of building a scalable business.
So we've got about 10 minutes. I want to talk about something very topical. Has anybody heard about Fast? Is anybody following the story of Fast? Hands up if you've heard about this company called Fast. So there's some leadership conversations to be had around Fast. So for those of you that don't know, Queensland-based founder, had done some stuff here, various levels of success depending on how you want to see what he's done. Went to Silicon Valley and raised 3 of the biggest and fastest rounds that have ever been raised in the Valley. I think he raised a small one, and then he raised 20, and then he raised 100, like back to back in about 18 months. So, obviously he's in the spotlight with his company called Fast, but they were taking on a huge challenge, which was reinventing checkouts globally to one click, which is obviously, if you get that done, incredibly valuable thing to do. And he had some massive investors, but they've just shut down, so completely shut down. They weren't able to get their next round of funding done. They were burning $10 million a month, reportedly, and they only had $50K a month in revenue. So there's a little bit to unpack here. I don't think we should get too bogged down on it, but I thought, whoa, crazy story. Let's unpack like a few of these key concepts and get your opinion on that.
So the first thing is kudos to a Queensland founder for being able to go to the Valley and raise 120 million.
Very inspiring, right? Like part of it, absolutely.
We've got to really stop and just think about that. I have been to the Valley, I would say 20 times. I have pitched nearly every investor on Sand Hill Road, like everyone, Andreessen, all of them, right? I have a US investor based in Houston and the Bay Area. It is incredibly hard to raise money over there if you're an Australian company. So the first thing is don't underestimate the feat, right? That's the first thing.
He still gave me advice between his first and second round while he was over there. So I always found him to be
Dom's a great guy.
Super approachable, positive guy.
Yeah, really positive guy. And I've known him for ages. So what would I say? I would say that it's really, at a surface level, it'd be really easy to judge someone like that. It would be absolutely stupid of us to judge him because we don't understand the journey he was on. We don't understand the investor expectation. We don't understand the team dynamics, the market dynamics, the competitive dynamics.
Apple Pay.
Yeah.
I mean, if a place I go doesn't have Apple Pay, I basically nearly walk out now.
Yeah.
That wasn't there 2-3 years ago when he was raising. So there's just so much to the story.
Sometimes, right, like we see tech companies, innovative companies fail all the time, right? And they fail spectacularly at $2 million. Right?
It's hard for Australians to understand this as well because we haven't, especially in Queensland. One of my gripes about Queensland, and it's improving, is that we're still too conservative. Investors kind of want to see like a traditional SME P&L and balance sheet when they're investing for a seed round, and every single question they have ever had in the whole world about you and your industry answered before they'll give you like 50 grand, like just to be a bit of a dick to investors. Sorry about that, but but in the Valley, it's not like that. They're like, you're going big. I believe that if you solve that problem, this is going to be a huge outcome. But if you fail, we're not going to give you any more money. And that's 1 year or 18 months, and that's it. You are done. And it's really common over there, and when it's not used to it here.
Yeah, so firstly, I wouldn't judge Dom for having a crack, right? In fact, I would celebrate the fact that he had the tenacity and audaciousness to go big. Right, and so I think we can learn a lot of lessons from that. I think we should embrace him and welcome him back into our ecosystem and encourage him to go again, because he'll bring enormous experience and capability and credibility and lessons learned.
I was saying the same thing only to Ben before. All that experience and network he has, if he's learning lessons all along the way and his intentions are good, then he's a great asset. So let's hope that that's the case. Right, let's talk a little bit about 0 to 1, or like. There was founders in the room, so who would be considering, still finding product market fit, maybe still raising that first round, and how many people sort of in that very first stage? I'm sure there's a bunch here. Yep, and then maybe the next stage. So if you've got customers, you're growing quickly month on month, you might have raised a couple of rounds. So we've got both camps. Yep, awesome, good to see. So maybe we'll start with 0 to 1. I think both those stages could fit in the Valley of Death. So the Valley of Death, any comments on how a founder can help lead his team and company investors through this phase? I think Kate's still in it as well. Fuck.
Look, so I just closed my 5th round a couple of weeks ago, and we raised $16 million, and
Congrats, well done.
Yeah, thanks. We've raised a bit over 30 now total since we started the business in 2012. And it never gets any easier, as Jay said. It just gets different, right? And I think one of the really important things for those guys that are early in their funding process, don't sweat it. Don't sweat the small stuff. You're going to build resilience, right? You are going to build resilience through this process. I can tell you honestly that my business going into this capital raising, like I had a month left of runway before I closed the round.
Who hasn't been in that situation?
And that was my 5th round, right? And I'm doing almost $1 million a month in revenue, right? So to put it into context, the valley of death is wide and deep, yeah? So that's just real. And you learn along the journey you actually, like, I was recruiting, my board are looking at me going, what the are you doing? And I hadn't closed the round, and I'm like, I've got 10 job ads in the market. I'm recruiting.
How funny is that? Like, you're hiring and you're growing, and everyone's like, oh, you're doing so well. And you're like, I am burning so much money.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the pressure is real, right? Like, you
everything's
can't
good except just please anybody give me $5 million.
Well, the reality is when you're at my stage, you can't stop growing. You can't stop growing to do a capital raising.
And then you do an operating P&L and you're like, oh, I could operate with this much money, but then all those other 2 P&Ls, like, those people have names and shit, and you feel really responsible for them.
Yeah.
So like, it's not really the case that you can just flip back into operating mode or whatever. Like, that's not really an easy thing.
No, so I think there are a couple of things. If you're raising your first round, my advice is stop. Stop. I know that's controversial, right?
This is interesting. What do you mean?
Yeah, I would say stop, and I would say get more customers. Right? If you're raising your first round, I'd say stop and get more customers. I would say think about how you fund your business for the next 6 to 12 months through revenue as opposed to through capital. How do you do that? I've had to do it.
I would 100% echo that. I think having raised multiple rounds and been in capital raising for a long time, the longer you can wait to raise, if you're getting more traction, the better. And the longer you can space your rounds out, definitely the better.
So what do I mean? I literally said to BHP and my first couple of customers, can you pay us annually in advance? And I'll give you a 5% discount. And that allowed me to extend my runway. I then said to a couple of customers, and I still do this today, I still get my customers to pay annually in advance. I say to customers all the time, here's our roadmap. Here's all the things we want to do. If there's anything on the roadmap that you want brought forward, let's co-fund it. We'll own the IP. You pay 30%, we pay 70%.
Particularly relevant in enterprise, I think, as well. Like, it's, with the type of business we are, high volume, B2B SaaS, 1,000 ARPU, like, you can't ask those guys to pre-fund, but I think
in enterprise,
right? Wonderful strategy.
Yeah. And so I have literally extended my runway many times because I've been able to get customers to co-fund some of the product development because they get the benefit from it. Does 2 things.
Although with us, what we did recently, which we should have done in the beginning, is we now have monthly and annual pricing, and 45% of our new customers are paying annually.
Yeah, great
strategy.
So
if you've got a 1 times, like, you kind of want to have a 12-month payback period on your CAC anyway, and if half your customers are signing up for annual, it's a really nice way to extend your runway.
It's a really great strategy if you're B2C or B2b. Definitely doing that is a great idea, right? One of the things about getting your customers to co-fund development is that it ensures you're actually building stuff that is valuable in the market. And that's a really good way to make sure you're not building what you think they want, you're building what they will actually pay for. So that's something.
Maybe a good segue into product market fit. You said before you have some reservations about it, or it's definitely a highly loaded term at least. Leadership around product market fit in 0 to 1 businesses, anything to add there?
Product market fit is, I think it's a term that I think it's a term that founders aspire to achieve as opposed to a actual demonstration of the value of your product in the market. So what determines value of your product in the market? Right?
NPS score maybe.
Yeah, and revenue, right? And how quickly your revenue is growing.
Yeah,
and
I think like revenue, customer growth and revenue growth are really great indicators of product market fit, I would have thought.
I think so. And I think that if you're getting regular adoption, if you're beating your competitive set, then I think you've got a great, you're getting product market fit. I think the market changes. Who agrees with this? Whose market is changing at the moment? Who's got customer expectations that are changing? Who can see reasons why their market is going to change? Externalities that are going to force change in your market. That means that your product market fit is changing, right? And you have to adapt your product to the changing market.
So perhaps then it's more about having the right muscle internally to be constantly evaluating what do my customers want? How do I constantly, solve the problem well enough to have ongoing sales and growing revenue? So it's building that innovative muscle within the business as opposed to trying to find like a static win.
Yeah, it's very much, I think, as you build a product team, and like I've got 40 people in my product team, it's about getting that product team.
Got one. No, I've got two now.
Look, we started there too, right? It's about getting that product team to not just focus on bugs and features, but to focus on the big rocks. What are the new modules, the new things that are going to absolutely shift the needle on your business, as opposed to doing the easy things, which is the next little incremental growth.
So we're just about out of time, mate. I think that was entertaining. Hopefully that was entertaining. We definitely did our best, and hopefully you learned something. Was there anything in particular that that we haven't covered that you thought was very relevant for today?
I would like to throw it open to you guys. So ask me anything, any question, fill your boots. Let's have a conversation.
I'll walk a mic to you if you have a question. Any questions?
Come on.
Steve, would you have a question?
You experience emotional highs and lows in growing a business over about. Thanks, Ariana. So you experience emotional highs and lows running a business, especially over 10, 15 years, if a successful business as it grows, and you get very, very close to that falling off the chasm or in the hole over a number of times. What's the one single biggest takeaway from or the biggest near-death experience? We had in a previous firm that I ran, we had the term NDE, or near-death experiences, and near-death experiences were I suppose every couple of years as we grew and as we got to the next level and we invested more and we burnt more. So
it's amazing, isn't it? You're like succeeding, but you're like, hang on a sec, the problem's got bigger.
It's got bigger, and you go from where the founders can no longer fund it, and maybe your founding investors can no longer fund it, and you realise that you're in it for the real. And I agree, Dom, that you feel personal for the staff there. So what's the biggest near-death experience that you might like to share with us, and how you handled it?
I don't feel like we've had one particular near-death experience. We've had many, and that's just the journey of an entrepreneur. I think the thing that I take away from all the experiences I've had founding companies is the resilience you build, and I think building resilience as a founder and teaching your team to build resilience, that's probably the most important part about managing the day-to-day life in a high growth firm, right? So it's by necessity founders have everything on the line, and as a result of that, our tolerance to risk is higher. However, as you scale, you can't be the single point of decision, the single point of failure, the single point of energy, the single point of culture, or the single point of wisdom. You can't be any of those things. So as you scale, you've got to build trust and capability in your exec team. And then they've got to devolve that competence and capability and culture down to the line managers. And it's building depth that I think is the most important role of a founder. Once you've got a product in the market and you're starting to get revenue, then building scale, building depth is my job. That's what I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm a coach, I'm a leader, I'm a mentor, I'm a problem solver, I'm a challenger, I'm all those things that it's about building scale. And we just raised this round. We have 2 new major investors come on, and one of the investors came up. They both came up to meet us. One of them observed. He said, "Wow, you really delegate well." And I said, "Yeah, I can't be the single point of failure in every part of the business. It's not going to work, right? You need to trust your team. You need to empower them. I employ people that, I employ 10 people that cost more than $200,000 a year in base salary. They've got to earn their keep, right? And I expect them to be really capable and competent, make really high quality decisions and take stuff off my plate. If I have to do their job for them, then we're in struggle street. And so resilience and building depth, I think, are the ways to overcome the near-death experiences, to kind of flatten the peaks and the troughs, because you're going to have them every day of the week, right? And I think, Steve, you said it really well. As you go on scale, right? Like the first 20 people, it's a certain type of business. 20 to 50, it's another type of business. 50 to 90, it's another type of business. Above 90, you get into that 100 to 200 person business. It's entirely different, and they require different systems, different profiles, different leadership styles, different communication frameworks. There's a whole bunch of change that you have to do, and that's a really important part of the journey. We've got one up there.
I got one.
Yep.
So thanks, Wayne. And look, you and Lee are doing a great job. So, congratulations to you. And what I want to actually throw out there is look on the other side, the businesses, the enterprise. How do we get them to start taking more risks and to do the proof of values, to actually come in and open up their ecosystem for the startups, for the scale-ups, because not enough in Queensland are doing that. And I actually think it's, there's the responsibility of everyone, but it's on your shoulder at the moment as a chief entrepreneur to get these big businesses to turn around and say, yes, come in and try it. That's everything from government to councils to airports to schools to universities to hospitals. Because if we don't do that, we don't get the opportunity to get that first 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 customers.
I totally agree. Unlocking customers are in our economy. So I have 3 priorities as chief entrepreneur. I want to unlock government, I want to unlock corporates, and I want to make sure I position Queensland really well for an amazing Olympics. Right? They're my 3 things that if I walk away from my term as chief entrepreneur having positively impacted those things, I feel like I'll have done a good job. I won't have solved those 3 things. I will have moved the ball up the field and I'll hand over to the next person to do what they want to do. So what are we doing? Literally in the last 2 years, since I've taken over chief entrepreneur, I've run probably 10 sessions inside Queensland government with all the director generals, with most of the DGs and their leadership teams, with our Queensland government procurement team, literally talking to them about the economic benefit of them buying more from you. And I'm taking them on a change journey. Next week, we have a conference called the Big Conference, which is an Innovation in Government conference. We're co-sponsoring that. And it is all about empowering Queensland government staff to partner, not purchase. To partner with local innovators, entrepreneurs and researchers to solve important problems and to unlock opportunities. So that's something that's really passionate. I ran a workshop 3 weeks ago for the central procurement team where I spent 3 or 4 hours in the morning literally going, right, let's unpack this. How do you do it? Right? I had their leaders in the room. Their leaders were like completely supportive of them spending more time partnering right, rather than purchasing. So that's a Queensland government thing. It's a big initiative. Like next week, I've got Rachel Hunter is the Director General of the Premier's Department. So she really is the most senior public servant in Queensland. She's opening the conference for us, and her whole job is to literally give the Queensland Public Service permission to partner with innovators, right? And she's absolutely on board. So is the what's he called, under treasurer? Is that the right title? Yeah. So all the DGs are really, really keen. So that's that. In the corporate world, as part of the Innovation Advisory Council, we have a really amazing person who represents corporates. Her name's Sue Johnson. She is the senior most person at Transurban in Queensland. So she runs Transurban in Queensland. Transurban is a ASX top 20 company. They are huge, right? And she is our corporate champion. Together with Sue, we've run an event for the boards of big Queensland companies, and then another event for the CEOs and executive teams of big Queensland companies. Exactly the same message. How do we get you to partner with Queensland innovators, entrepreneurs and researchers to solve your challenges, to unlock opportunities in your industries and in your businesses? Because they, like us, want to be more proactive. They, like us, want to work more collaboratively. And there's a real ESG, right, aspect to them partnering to create local jobs. They get it, and that's a journey we're going on. Now, can I do this alone? No. What does it need? It needs you to be thoughtful about how you go and present yourself to them. Just like I had to learn how to do it with BHP, you have to learn how to do it with your large clients. And as an ecosystem, as a team, our job is to share lessons, share contacts, and help each other. And so if you need a hand, ask each other who you know. Get those introductions, get those connections, and make sure you do a lessons learned when you're engaging with them, because it's up to us to demonstrate that we are the right kind of people, entrepreneurs, researchers, innovators, and companies to partner with. Yeah, it's a really important part of our role as well. Bo, does that answer? Cool. We're working really hard right now to think about future funding for Advanced Queensland and future funding for programs which we're calling capital pathways. And what we're trying to do is see how we could include some funding in there that would encourage the piloting or proof of concepts with Queensland companies, with Queensland innovators. Now, there's no guarantees of that, right? We're doing a little bit of trialling. Lee and her team are doing this amazing job right now with a couple of Queensland corporates to pilot that program to see if it works. And in essence, it's a co-funded proof of concept. The corporate contributes some funding, the Queensland government contributes some funding, the innovative company gets a customer, not a grant, right? And they learn the real lessons of having to deal with customers. We think that's a really powerful approach that could unlock this opportunity, and we hope to be able to do more of it. We just got to go through a Queensland government budgeting process. Yeah, hope that answers that question. Lee, did I say anything wrong there? Good. No promises, but absolutely committed to trying to make a difference.
I have first-hand experience at the Queensland government departments, really partnering with us, and we've got some events coming up in our industry, so we're really grateful for that. So I presume that's happening, right across a bunch of industries in Queensland, which is great.
Yeah, we're seeing medtech, right? So there's hospital partnering right now. We've got, what other industries, Lee, are we currently doing some trials with? Yep.
That's very relevant on the Gold Coast. I know there's quite a bit of interest down here in sports tech and health tech and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, so we're not just talking about it, we're doing stuff about it, and that's really exciting, right? Who else has got a question? Come on, down the front. We need a mic.
easy one. Thanks also for your leadership on the Olympics. I've seen you do heaps of stuff there, and I was just hoping you could give us an update because there's been a lot of stuff happen in a very short period of time since they sort of announced it. If you can give us an update on where we're at and where we're going.
Easy. What are we doing? We are, I've spent, I don't know how much time, a very large amount of time. I'm meant to be volunteering in this role 1 day a week. And yeah, I'm definitely doing more than that. This week we've got a meeting with a whole bunch of director generals and their teams around the vision for the Olympics. What's the vision and plan for the Olympics? I've got this vision in my mind. I've shared a bit of a briefing paper up through Queensland Government about how I want to make the Olympics an experience-driven Olympics, not a logistics-driven Olympics. And that's really important because if we can make it an experience-driven Olympics, the way I phrase that is I say, I want to get people to the Olympics 3 hours before the event, and I want them to stay 3 hours after. And then working backwards.
Cool. I remember some big events I've been to, so for example, the World Cup in Germany, every minute of that event was just so much fun, free-flowing. You didn't notice all the fences and barricades and security guards and all that crap. Whereas other events are completely different and you just feel like you're stuck in whatever box you've been put in for that moment and then move to the next box.
Jace, it's so right.
That's so cool.
So if we can do that, if we can achieve that, and you say, right, if I want to make this an experience-driven event, then work backwards from there. What are the economic opportunities that creates for us, for Queensland businesses, to interact with and sell to and participate with all of the people involved in the Olympics? And therefore, what infrastructure do you have to put in place? And what's the legacy we're going to create from that? And so this morning we were meeting with the Mayor here, Tom Tate, and we were talking about exactly that. How do we make this an experience-driven Olympics? What's the opportunity for the Gold Coast? How do we completely change the game so that we walk away with here with a real legacy? And the legacy is not just infrastructure. The legacy is better companies, more jobs, more economic return, more value extracted from the Olympics staying here in Queensland, and experiences that are going to create better entrepreneurs, better founders, better employees, and all of the stuff that goes along with that. So a real opportunity for us to participate. We've got this Friday, I've got an event that I'm hosting that is a conversation around the environmental part of the Olympics and how do we really drive that as a core infrastructure piece. So what's the environmental impact on the infrastructure? We've basically mapped the Olympics into every stage, every component. And so just, I'm doing that because I'm visual, right? So I've got this big spreadsheet that lists every part of the Olympics, and then down the side, every stakeholder group. And I'm going, right, for every stage, how do I maximize the impact for every stakeholder group? And there are some parts of the Olympics that we can't influence because they are controlled by the Olympic Committee. They're already pre-allocated. But for every other part, we're going to try and unlock as much economic opportunity as possible. And that's really my, if I can at least get the government and the organising committee to make that their priority, right? And so that they design the Olympics as an experience-driven Olympics. If I can do that, then I'll feel like that's an incredible legacy.
Well, I think we've run a bit over. I don't want to get in trouble, but obviously you've smashed it, Wayne, because everybody's been really enjoying that. Lots of great questions at the end. So maybe everyone thanks Wayne, Chief Entrepreneur, for coming.
Thanks, Jace. And give Jace a clap. What a great MC. Okay, now indulge me for 1.5 minutes. Can you do that? 1.5 minutes. All right, it's really, really important. Marianne, come up. Come on. I want you.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay, so we are BioAs, and we make a range of functional food and beverage ingredients that are symbiotics, which is groundbreaking formulations of pre and probiotics that can be used in everyday food. So our purpose was to build some wellness back into everyday foods that are highly processed. You look at different societies and the sort of types of diseases that are creeping into Western society particularly. kids don't play in dirt, allergies are going up, all those sorts of things. So we found a range of microbes that, in combination with proper dietary prebiotic fibre, help your microbiome and your gut and wellness and all the things that go with that.
So where's your business at?
Okay, so we are manufacturing the ingredients. We've actually, as you said, we've understood now that our customers don't all want what we thought they want. So we've now got 6 different formulations, and we have a Australian New Zealand distributor, Dola, who's a multi-global ingredients distributor to blue chip companies as well as smaller ones. And actually a big milestone this week. Yesterday, our first ingredient customer ran 20,000 cans of soft drink or sparkling water with our product in it under their brand. So that was exciting. So you'll be able to buy it in Woolworths in July from their brand. But we fell in love with the fact that we could put this in pure water, and we developed our own brand as well. We kind of thought, if we're not prepared to take that symbiotic story to the market, then we can't expect our customers to.
How does this help the founder?
So it helps, it keeps me regular. So we have, it's a, look, for us it's the same sort of journey where we've actually, this started from a love of horses, and we found something similar that worked really well for horses. But again, just had to pull bunches of people in to help me achieve, and just kept splitting the company up and getting ourselves as a team. So we're really cohesive as a team. So it helps all of us. We're all founders. We think all of our team are, we don't even use that word anymore. We're just all entrepreneurs. So thank you. Thank you.